Health IQ podcast. The Ripple Effect, peer support and improving quality of life.
Welcome back to Health IQ podcast. Today, we will be talking about a new service available at our hospital and also other hospitals around our state. And I'm sure other states have this service as well. Our special guest today is Donald Hume. He's with Presbyterian Community Health. And I am Brenda Bishop, your host. Our crew is Bobby Hockaday and Joyce Runyon. And joining me at the table, or us at the table, I should say, is Rochelle Moon, our preventionist with the Clay County Health Council. First of all, Donald, thank you so very much for driving all the way over here from Albuquerque. We're excited about that. Not very many people like to venture this far east.
My honor, for sure.
So a couple of years ago, I heard you speak. We were all on Zoom at a conference, and you were talking about peer support, and I thought, that is so cool. That'd be really cool if we could have that at our hospital. And now we do.
Yes.
So I was very intrigued, and I'm glad you're able to come here and talk a little bit about what sick peer support is and how we're helping our community here.
Okay. So peer support is a program that has been started in New Mexico back in 2002, I believe, is when we started really working on getting peer support going. And what it is it's people with the lived experience of mental health and or substance use. They go through a 40-hour class. They learn the techniques on how to share their story. They learn how to coach and mentor and model what recovery is. And then we try to connect with people that are trying to come into recovery that might be experiencing misuse of alcohol or substance use, or that might be struggling with their mental health. And so we will meet with them. We talk to them about what recovery is, how it can work for them, what it's done for us as individuals in recovery, and then try to assist them in improving their quality of life, really. Because when we talk about recovery, we want to make sure that people understand that it's not really about not drinking or not using or not having symptoms. It's about improving one's quality of life. So how can I assist you in improving your quality of life?
And so is this a one-time thing, or is it ongoing? Or
So the training happens, they've been trying to have trainings, I believe, like 6 times a year, and they can train up to 25 people per training. And usually what they'll do is every 2 or 3 months, they'll have 2 trainings. So they'll have 25 in one and 25 in another. And then once they get trained, then they take a test, get certified, and then from there, they have to do 40 hours of continuing ed every 2 years to recertify.
okay, so that's how they become a peer support person.
Yes.
So, but as the person receiving the support, is it a one-time support, or is it?
No, we will follow them as long as they feel they need the assistance.
Oh, wow.
So, there's people that we might meet with them, give them some resources, try to connect them to community-based services if there are any. And if not, then what we'll do, we'll try to connect them to other people in recovery within their location.
Wow. Okay.
And then if they want continue to help, we'll continue to reach out to them. We always make sure that peers always make sure that people have their numbers just in case they would need continued assistance.
So is the peer care, is it one-on-one or is it in a group setting?
So that's a good question, because When it first started, it was one-on-one.
Okay.
And as we started to grow peer support, and Medicaid approved peer support as a billable service. And so once that happened, then they started to look at the different areas that they could bill for that service. And so they can do groups, they can do one-on-one peer support, they can do couples, whatever the need is
Okay.
for the individual.
I never think about how people are paid or billing. So are these peer support people then like employees so they get reimbursed or paid for their time?
So usually what happens is an organization will hire a peer. There's a large pool of peer supports within New Mexico at this time. And part of what they need to do 40 hours of exposure time. So usually what will happen is they will do their exposure time with another agency or with an agency. And a lot of times the agency will then bring them on board as employees after the exposure hours. Or
cool.
then they're able to look for opportunities within the state that they can work. OPRI, which is the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement through the Healthcare Authority, they have a newsletter that goes out every month. And in that newsletter, it has job openings.
Oh,
So it also works as a place where people can put their employment wishes in that newsletter.
Wow.
so while we're talking about peer support, you want to tell us a little bit about the philosophy of this, or what is it all focused on?
So the philosophy really is assisting individuals in understanding that recovery is possible. So often we get caught up in our using, our drinking, caught up in our mental health, and we start to believe that recovery isn't possible for us. And so we really work hard in assisting people in seeing that recovery is possible. And part of that is done through our mentoring, showing them that it's possible. And then what we do is we'll teach them skills, we'll coach them on how to talk to providers. We might be able to also educate them about harm reduction and what they need to do to stay safe. So that the end goal is to help people improve their quality of life.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an important goal. We have that goal as well in, providing education of all kinds of different things.
I don't know too many people that don't want to improve their quality of life.
Yes.
So.
So can you tell us a little bit about how it works within our hospital is a Presbyterian hospital, so we're working within the Presbyterian system, but we're also very rural. So how does it work here?
Right. So about 5 years ago, we started peer support. We got a grant through Department of Health to look at individuals that were coming in to the emergency room with opiate overdose. And when we started to actually work in the emergency room, we realized that opiate overdose wasn't the primary issue. That we needed to really start to look at how can we assist people that are using, that might be experiencing difficulties with their drinking, and so we opened up the door. And once we opened that door, it started to flood, and so what we realized was that not only did we need to look at the bigger cities, but we also needed to look at our rural hospitals. And so we started doing what we called virtual peer support, which is if somebody comes into your hospital in a rural community and they have substance use or alcohol use or suffering from depression, then the emergency room would call us, and then we would get on board with an iPad and do a virtual meeting through that iPad and see how we can engage those individuals and start to talk about what they are experiencing.
Right.
So while they're still in the emergency room.
While they're still in the emergency room.
So you're saying what you realized was the core issue is not the substance or the substance use or misuse. There's something else going on often with people.
There is.
That's driving. It's the underpinning of driving whatever behavior is happening.
Right. Well, and we do know that substance use, alcohol use is, for a lot of people, it's about the traumas that they've experienced in life. And they drink and they use or experience mental health diagnoses because of the trauma that they've experienced in their life.
I was thinking about here in New Mexico where the research started, it's often the adverse childhood experiences.
Right.
We call those ACEs.
Right.
And I have social work background.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so what we did was we started to look at that and say, okay, well, what can we do as an organization to try to curb some of this that is happening? See,
so you're really working to build resiliency.
Right. See, we don't know what somebody's story is.
Right.
I came into recovery after a 22-year IV drug addiction. And I was introduced to it through hospitals because as a young child, I experienced a lot of physical different abilities. And so that was my trauma that I experienced. And I knew that opiates would make me feel better. And then at one point, it just got to be out of hand. And so we really don't know what people's trauma is or what might have gotten them there.
Right.
So part of what we do is we share our own so that the individual can open up and start to talk about it. And being able to do it virtually really opens the door for our rural communities.
Right.
So that we can connect with them right there where they're at. And then
that's a big thing.
It is. Yeah. And then if we, for whatever reason, we can't connect to them, then we call them up after their emergency room visit and just ask them how they were doing, and if there is anything that we can do to assist them in the issues that they were experiencing.
So when they get to the emergency room, is there some kind of screening process so that they know to call you?
So right now there is. Before what we did was we looked at the chief complaint. And so the chief complaint is what they came in for. And so often, if a chief complaint is, let's say, abdominal issues, then what we would do is look at that individual's chart, see if there was any history of substance use or alcohol use, and then we would go ahead and reach out to those individuals. Today, what we have is what is called SFIR, which is the screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment. So when an individual comes into the emergency room, what happens is they get screened during triage. And they're asked some question through a screening process called the HLQ-9, I believe it is. which is the Healthy Living Questionnaire. And it asks questions about depression, anxiety, PTSD, alcohol use, substance use, marijuana use, tobacco use. And then depending on how they score, if they score positive, then we get an icon that says expert screening positive. And then at that point, we reach out to the emergency room and say, hey, person in room 2A screen positive, is there any way that we can engage with them via the iPad? And then they go in and they talk to the patient, kind of explain to them what peer support is, explains to them that we're a part of their care team. See, that's huge. To be considered a part of somebody's care team coming into the emergency room really opens the door for us to assist the clinicians in the emergency room, as well as opening the door to have a good conversation with the patient. And then from that point, we, depending on where they scored positive, then we would start to talk to them about that substance use or alcohol use or whatever it may be, and really gauge their readiness for treatment. And that treatment can be just about anything. It could be with a therapist, it could be with peer support, it could be an inpatient program, outpatient, or even MAT, which is the medication-assisted treatment for opiate use. Or we also have medication-assisted treatment for alcohol use as well. And with that, then we will do whatever we can to meet their need. So if they want to go inpatient, we work on relationships with all the different inpatient programs throughout New Mexico. And then we try to place them in one that would be beneficial for them.
Wow, that's good, because it is so hard to find any kind of placement situation. And if you're trying to do it on your own,
You know what?
be really difficult.
I don't know how people that don't work in the field find out the information, really, because it is so difficult. You know, it's getting a lot better in New Mexico. It's amazing, really, how many treatment programs there are in New Mexico right now.
That's good. So, sounds really great. And so I assume you have a success story you could share?
You know what? I've got so many success stories. We, probably some of the best success stories are individuals that have come in. They've come in with overdoses, and we were able to get them started on medication-assisted treatment and then get them into an inpatient program. And one gentleman that I know, we were able to do that with, and a month later he calls us up and he says, I made it through the 30-day program and I'm going to another one.
Oh, wow.
And 90 days later, he calls up and he goes, I made it through that program. I'm living in sober living now. And I've got about 4 months in recovery, and I got my first job.
Wow.
And I'm talking to my parents. That's huge.
Yeah.
You know, because what we start to see a ripple effect. And what I mean by that is now his friends are saying, what did you do? How did you do it? We thought you'd never get sober. And he's able to share with them what he did. We also don't see him going to jail anymore. We also don't see him coming into the emergency room once a week or every other week for substance-related episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he isn't in the court system anymore.
Right.
You know, he's a productive member of society. You know, and he came back later and he wrote a letter to Presbyterian that said, I have never in my life knew that there were people in the emergency room that could help me like that.
Wow.
I never knew that people in recovery were working there and could really guide me through the process of what I needed to do. You know, we've had grandparents call us up and say, you know what, thank you for giving us an extra 4 months with our grandson. We never thought we would get to see him sober, you know. And I hate to say it, but we also lose people, you know. And even by losing people, that's what that grandmother, her grandson passed away. He ended up with cirrhosis of the liver and ended up passing. But she was so grateful and so thankful for us giving her that little bit of time that she had to really know her grandson again. And that, you know, that just pulls on your heartstrings.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
You know, because she never thought that she'd be able to see that again.
Oh, I'm so excited for this program. It's so needed in not just our community, but
Yes.
many communities across the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully some of the other non-Presbyterian hospitals can expand as well.
So let me tell you what has happened through the hospital association and through Department of Health is every emergency room in rural areas is supposed to start the SBIRT, the Screening, Brief Intervention, and
great.
Referral to
Oh, okay.
Treatment.
That's great.
And right now, Presbyterian's the only one using peers to do that. And at the same time, I'm also assisting other hospitals in looking at how can they get peer supports going.
Wow.
You know, New Mexico is one of the leading states on peer support right now. You know, every state has peer supports, but we're putting peers in the emergency room. I've got a peer that works in the NICU with moms that have babies that have been exposed to substances. And so she works with those moms and helps them get into recovery so that maybe we can change, you know, that lifestyle, you know, and those babies don't have to come back into this life of substance use. You know, we've got peers in the OBGYN right now as well, working with moms that might be pregnant or are pregnant that we need to assist them in identifying ways to improve their quality of life.
Wow.
And therefore their child.
Right.
So can someone self-refer themselves to peer support?
You know what? It can be done, and it is happening. So, because we've been doing this now for a little over almost 6 years, is people are starting to walk into the emergency room and ask for a peer. Do you have a peer in your emergency room?
Wow.
You don't? Well, then I'm going to this hospital, you know? And so it is happening. You know, we'll even get phone calls from people that we've assisted before in the emergency room saying, hey, I'm bringing my brother in, or I'm bringing my friend in. Can you do the same thing for them that you did for us?
Wow.
So the word is out there, you know,
that's wonderful.
and people are really self-referring as they walk into the emergency room. They're wanting to know, is there a peer available?
Wow.
So if you're listening to this and you're ready and you want some help, you can go to our emergency room and say, I need to speak to a peer.
Yeah, and they will connect you. You know, and that, you know, we also do 24/7. So I've got peers that work during the day. And then at night, my team is so amazing because they all volunteer to be on call throughout the night.
Wow.
You know, and
That's great.
each one of them takes a night and covers the whole state so that whenever somebody comes in, they can call the peer up and say, hey, I've got somebody in the emergency room. They're wanting to talk to a peer. Can we connect you? And my team wakes up and they do it, you know, and they don't complain. Well, no, they don't.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much out of time. Is there anything extra you wanted to make sure that we touched on that we didn't ask?
You know, I think probably the most important thing is don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
The help is out there, you know, and I know that our team is always willing to give that individual a helping hand up. And if we can't do it, we will find the people that can.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
So we do want to thank you for coming and present you with your very own Health IQ tumbler.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Purple, my
Enjoy.
favorite color.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank
Yes.
you.
It's wonderful.
I'm just excited about this program because
Yeah.
I can see its potential.
Yes.
And we hope you enjoyed learning about this great support that's available here in Quay County. And please come back next time for another interesting health topic.
Special thanks to our guest, Donald Hume, Peer Support Supervisor, Presbyterian Community Health, and our host, Brenda Bishop, Quay County Health Council Coordinator.
Podcast crew, Director, Robert F. Hockaday. Producers, Robert F. Hockaday, Joyce Runyon. Camera Operator, Robert F. Hockaday. Second Assistant Operator, Joyce Runyon. Editor, Joyce Runyon. Music provided by David Morris. Funding for this podcast is provided by New Mexico Legislative Appropriation from Representative Jack Jackson. Brought to you by Quay County Health News. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have content ideas, reach out to us at healthiqpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.